I was always interested in cars from a very early age. I was always drawing, either planes or scenes or vehicles and things when I was very young. My dad was a draftsman, so he was an engineer, and he ended up at Lotus in the UK and heading up the sort of the CAD engineering side of Lotus. And he was bringing home magazines from the Lotus library, and I would just sit and try to copy them. I ended up at Lotus for an internship when I was 15. After I came home after day one, I was like, right, I want to do this job. I was never too interested in sort of fixing cars and getting too interested in all of the nuts and bolts of a car. It was more about the aesthetic. Lotus was obviously a lot of the kind of influence of what I had access to, at least visually, with my father working there. So that was kind of a big inspiration. Obviously the sort of Giugiaro era of Lotus as well, where the Esprit sort of and those kind of wedge-shaped cars. It's a transition. I don't think it's come about as quickly as everyone expected it to. Everything's electric, autonomous, connected. It has happened in some parts of the world because it's a growing market. Obviously, China is a new market for cars, relatively speaking. So they've been able to put the infrastructure in at the beginning. Electrification is the norm. You'll be hard pushed to go to Shanghai now and find a pure petrol car driving around. It's heavily EV. The transition's obviously more difficult in other parts of the world where we've got to switch the infrastructure and make the experience of driving a car and charging and owning an electric car has got to be a little bit more seamless and a little bit more comfortable. That in it will come, obviously. So maybe there's a little bit of lack of confidence maybe in what the car can do, and having that faith that it's going to get you to where it needs to go, because of the range anxiety and things like that. So obviously we're trying to deal with that. We're trying to maximise the range of the cars through the battery technology. The charge times obviously are really important as well. So the MGS5, we've managed to get that down to a reasonable figure to get an 80% charge in that. I think it's 26 minutes. Electrification is allowing a transition to something cleaner and potentially more sustainable. It might not be the only answer, but it's certainly it's a good addition. It's a good complement to where the future is going. Your average EV car will accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7 seconds, let's say. So, which is more than enough, to be honest. It's plenty enough. So when all cars can do that, then what else do we need to do? And we need to focus on other things like materiality or experience, user experience. Those sort of components of the car are becoming much more prominent in the work we're doing, which, dare I say, we're not so prevalent a couple of decades ago. So that's what's changing. Sound gives you that connection to a car. When you put the pedal down, you can hear an engine. You've got an audio reaction to a physical reaction. So obviously that's lost in an EV. We can simulate it, but it's never really the same, is it? So there is a little bit of a loss of that immediacy and connection, that sort of visceral experience that you got from driving an internal combustion engine car. Our studio's in central London, and London itself is, let's say, a renowned capital for arts and fashion and architecture and design and creativity, and there's some great design schools, and there's lots of passion for design and the creative arts in London. So it's a nice place to be if you're in the creative industry and you're looking for inspiration. So I think that adds something to what we do. Obviously, MG is a British brand. It's now under Chinese ownership, but its origins are British. So we're there to sort of try and obviously keep some of that spirit and retain it and hold on to the right things and actually, make sure that the business understands what that means as well. How does it work working 5,000 miles away in a with a culture and a market that's brand new, and it's all very much forward facing. Yeah, for sure it offers its challenges, but it's also about working with an open perspective and an open mind and communicating. I think that's one of the key things we try to achieve, is to have a good flow of communication, and we've got members of the Shanghai team in our studio in London. I go to Shanghai 4 or 5 times a year. I've got a good awareness, and I've seen a lot of the evolution of, particularly in Shanghai, of how the landscape from an automotive sense has evolved. I mean, we're still talking about a car which it still has to do more or less the same things as it used to do. Technology is the advantage. I think it's a very different perspective on technology in Asia and China, where technology is a little bit more accepted. You know, consumers are ready to have it and try it and to live with it and to interact with it. I think in the West it's a little bit more challenging for people to do that, and maybe also to trust it. So I think that's obviously to the advantage of the Chinese market, because there is a positive sort of approach to technology, which means they can kind of innovate with it and move forward and develop it quicker. And therefore, obviously, that does affect how you approach putting a car together, and experience of the car becoming a little bit more, dare I say, like a smartphone. There are brands, obviously, that are making the cars much more like an experience of driving around in a smartphone. The markets and the world is changing so quickly that I don't think anyone can predict too easily what's going to happen in 3 years' time or 5 years' time. So we need to be agile. I think that's one of the things we're good at, is being able to kind of shift and bring the right cars at the right time, which MG is doing at the moment. AI absolutely has a role to play in process and efficiency and so forth. AI at the moment is only as good as the input, so you still need to feed it something special and something that it can use to create something brilliant. The input is where designers still, should be focused. It's not necessarily designing, but it might be helping to sell the idea, or to kind of create something that captures people that would have taken, 10, 20 times, 50 times as the length of time if we were to do it in traditional techniques. We're only 15 people, or 20 people depending on the project size. So we're already quite a small team. I don't see that getting smaller. I think the opposite is we would just be able to do more. We would just be able to explore more and find more answers and more options to the way forward. So actually, it probably opens up things rather than narrows things in the future. I think for the good of creativity and problem solving and finding real innovation and new ideas, you still need people to explore that with the help of the tools that are available. Being able to understand how to get the best out of these tools is a skill in itself. And there's plenty of examples of people that are doing it brilliantly and people that are not doing it so well. So, or still learning along the way. So I think absolutely there are going to be advantages to people that can manipulate these tools and feed the information and get it to do the things that are still going to surprise you when it gets to that point where it's actually doing something that's like, oh, this is really interesting and it's really good. Which there are examples of, the glimpses of that's starting to happen for sure. Generally, because we're an advanced team, what we're looking for is that mindset approach, that open-mindedness. As the world is still in a fast pace, we don't want fixed narratives or fixed mindsets. We want open-minded characters and thinkers and talent. You have to, enthusiasm, all these things. The attitude is probably is equal importance as the technical skill. Clearly, we need people to come in and know how to do the job, but the attitude to the task is really important. This octagon logo, it really it really is something I think quite unique in the car industry, that it's, as you said, it's been and gone and come back, and it's got certain connotations and connections, some of which are positive, some are maybe not so positive historically, but behind it is such a rich story and heritage, and actually something very special that touched a lot of people. So there's a lot of magic behind the brand, which is not necessarily just about aesthetics. It's also about the spirit of what the brand represented, which was kind of accessible fun. Today, there's not many brands that are making just open-top sports cars, particularly at volume, on an international scale. So clearly, if MG is going to be a successful brand in the future, we've got to make products that are right for today's world. So we're doing that. Obviously, we've got hatchbacks and SUVs and other models and so forth. We've got a sports car. We've got Cyberster, which is true to the heritage of the brand. It's not something we've just taken from the past and pulled to today. It's very much respecting what the brand was and what it stood for, but for today. So it's, if you like, it's a quiet sports car. It's which most MGs were. They weren't there to be the loudest or to make the most obnoxious or even the fastest. They were there to kind of give an experience for everyday people, and Cyberster in some respects still does that. We still tried to make it achievable. We haven't priced it out of reach for many people. It's meant to be accessible, and access to technology which is otherwise 2 or 3 times the price, which is exactly what MGs of old were. The great thing is we've got a great foundation now. We've got a brand that's building. It's got volume. It's doing well in the UK. Obviously, it's 10th best-selling brand at the end of last year in the UK, which is a really strong position. Around 90,000 cars. Europe's strong, and other parts of the world. Obviously, we're in Southeast Asia and Australia as well as China. It's got some gravity, and it's got great potential. It carries a lot of responsibility, but there's a lot of expectation behind this brand. So hopefully we'll continue to get closer and closer and closer to reaching the full potential on the brand. It's a dream project. One of the key theatrical moments is, of course, the electric scissor doors, which were on the concept car, and we managed to retain those for the production car. And really, again, this is a little bit of a moment that you're getting something special. You're getting into something that feels like it's maybe 3 times the price. You don't normally get this feature on a car of this level and this price point. So yeah, that's great. Obviously, it's super attractive as well for a younger generation. Again, it's all sort of designed to be more immediate and a little bit more visceral. So you get that sort of immediacy, and you feel like you're in something now when you're inside the car that is more futuristic, a little bit more future-facing. But it's still a sort of premium experience. All of the materials are elevated. We've got Bose speakers. We've got a nice kind of engaging sports steering wheel, and there's switches and buttons and tactile elements to kind of also match with the digital nature of the interface. For me to have helped to bring this to fruition was a really exciting project. We've done lots of great projects over the years, but this one, I think, for what it does for the brand is really important. And who doesn't want to work on an open top sports car? So, yeah.